Welcome to this afternoon's webinar presented by the European UNESCO for All project. Who is speaking now is Henrik Sibsane. I'm director of the European Museum Academy. And I'll tell you a little about policies and practice through a case study in one particular museum. The European Museum Academy is very proud and honored to have this opportunity to address colleagues in the museum community on the issue of how to achieve access for all. This is one of the key principles behind the establishing of the Academy 10 years ago, because our founder, Kenneth Hudson, the British museologist, he stated already 3 decades ago that we are committed to promote quality in visitor services in general. And we have been working on that in many different ways since then. So we are proud to be here. What we'll do now is in the following, we'll try to give an example of a museum in a rich country in Europe, from the Northern Europe, who many today see as a role model in practical work of how we diversify access. And then we'll discuss the role model and why also this museum still has a lot of work to do, because the work of making access possible will never end. But the museum we chose for this afternoon is Jamtli in Östersund in the middle of Sweden. Just to give you an idea where that is, Sweden is a very long country, 2,400 kilometers from the south to the north. And in the middle of the country, close to the Norwegian border, we have the region of Jämtland Härjedalen, and there we have the museum I'm talking about. This region is huge. It's the same size as Scotland or Denmark or even Sicily. All the Benelux combined, that is about 12% of the area in the total of Sweden. But we only have 130,000 inhabitants. That's 1.3% of the Swedish population. So as you can imagine, there are long distances between the neighbors. We have a very attractive nature. People like that very much, with forests and mountains and lakes. And of course, tourism and even hunting and fishing is very popular. The museum I'm talking about looks like this from above. It's an open air museum, including an indoor museum. The indoor museum are located to the left in the picture, and the rest of the image will show different houses and farms, which are the open air museum area. From above, an air photo, you can see the exhibition buildings. In front, we have the entrance and the exhibition building. Permanent exhibitions are in the cellar, you don't see them here. And then the yellow building with a flat roof is the relatively new art gallery, which opened last summer. And behind that, we have the open air museum with all the trees around and etc., situated just by the side, by the bank of the lake in the region, the big lake. Some characteristics of the museum. It's an indoor museum with permanent and special exhibition on both art, cultural history, and archaeology. An open air museum with a little more than 90 cultural history buildings. These are all buildings which have been moved to the area from around in the region, dating from the 17th century until the 20th century. And there are 35 servants buildings and some 12 historical playgrounds for children. There's a tradition on special focus on pedagogical work in that museum. It was the first museum in Scandinavia to introduce living history, and I believe still the largest in that method. Every summer, if you visit the museum in the summer, you'll have some between 60 and 80 people every day in costumes playing history with you. It is the leading tourist attraction in the region during the summer. one of the largest museums in Scandinavia with 120 staff. And proud to say, it's the most expensive museum in Europe to visit for adults in the summer. Something like 30 euro for an adult for a one-day visit. And very few people complain because it is an extraordinary experience. Very popular for young families. Well, it used to be quite simple to say what a museum is. Museums were supposed to document and collect heritage. They were supposed to preserve heritage and exhibit heritage. That sounds quite easy, doesn't it? But what are museums good for today? We still produce and construct and deconstruct and reconstruct identities. We engage people, community work, volunteering, strengthen popular health, empower people. And museums have an ever more visible and respected economic impact. Tourism is one thing, cafes, shops, hotels, and hostels, etc. All this is part of a growing business in museums. So museums may have a core which is about producing identities, but it is much more today. If we use Jamtli as an example, let's say community work. What is that about? Well, for example, we have created a village of 17 small houses. They were the first of them were ready to move into in the beginning of 2017. They were created together with the municipality. The museum were erecting this building. They were renting them out to the municipality, and the idea was to help the museum and help the municipality becoming intercultural. So in these houses are today living 42 people, which are all young families with refugee backgrounds. The idea is that from the perspective of the municipality, the museum is helping them with housing. From the perspective of the museum, we're doing two things. First of all, we are in the short run, in 10 years, the first 10 years where we have them as tenants, we will meet the refugee people. Every day, the refugee families will be with us. We will meet them in the area, and we will invite them to participate in different activities. They will teach us different activities, and they will put their mark on the museum. So in one way or another, in 10 years, we have the chance to become really intercultural, as these people will put their mark on the museum. And they will be, of course, educated as good ambassadors of the museum. It's all up to us. Already now, after the first 2 years, we can see that quite many of these young families we are helping them with language and with contact to the authorities, and they are helping us as volunteers in different aspects. And even the summer 2019, we were very happy to employ some of the young people for the first time. So it will continue in the coming years, I'm sure. So this is an unusual thing to do for a museum, but there is also an aspect of business in this. We're making this accessible. That's the groundwork, but also it's good for business. If 30% of the population in Sweden and in our region, the Jämtland Härjedalen, in 10, 15 years from now, will have a non-European background, why should they come to the museum if they don't see their own stories? So we have to invite these people and get these people into the museum and set their mark. Otherwise, the museum will not be relevant for these people or for their children or grandchildren. That's not good for business. We have to be relevant. Another example is, of course, tourism. During the summer, we have a very short summer up there. It's only 8-9 weeks, but then we renamed the whole area into Jamtli History Land. And it is run as a historical theme park, especially designed for young families who are tourists in Sweden and in our region. And it's very popular. People will meet our actors from different time periods, from the 18th century onwards onto the 1970s. If you see in the right corner, you see a woman and the young guy with the guitar. They are our local hippies who have moved into our region in 1975 as house occupants, as we call them. They were simply occupying a house, and people are really weeping as they remind them of their own young years. Their own youth is very popular. So it's very interesting to attract people into history by living history, and especially popular for young families with children. This is a way to make history and cultural heritage and the museum attractive to children. Children will remember as adults that they had visited our museum and had a good time. It doesn't really matter if they're talking about the 17th century or the 19th or the 20th century. The most important thing is that they have had a good atmosphere and good treatment, and they remember a few things. They may remember a good bakery, they may remember some funny costumes, etc. But please ask yourself, what did you remember when you have visited a museum? Not very much. So we think it's quite good if the children could remember 3 things when they leave us. An example from education could also be interesting. Since 2004, all 9th grade school classes in our region participate in the 4-hour-long role play we call Refugee. With usually open air museums and a school class of, let's say, 25 young people, age 15, 16 years, they are coming to us. They are learning a little about what is a role play, and then they learn a little about what does it mean to be an asylum seeker, a refugee, an immigrant. These words which are used today. What is the terminology? What are the rules, etc. The law. And then the refugee role play really starts. And all of them have their own role, and they try to get into Sweden. And Sweden is then part of the open air museums, and outside Sweden is another part. And they try to get in, and our police find them all, and etc. etc. And they go through the different phases of asylum seeking in Europe, and they are being interviewed, etc. And at the end of 4 hours, they are realizing what a life is if you are an asylum seeker. What is a life like? It is boring. There are long hours sitting waiting. You know, young people, 15, 16 years old, it's very easy for them to be boring. Most of their life is boring if they're not with their colleagues and they have fun and dancing and whatever they do. But here they are in an atmosphere where they realize that this is not very easy. And we know from educational psychologists that they can measure that our role play has a positive impact as we use the empathy of the participants. So 3 months after and 1 year after, we can see that especially the young girls who are participating, and also the boys, still remember and will use some of the knowledge they got from this emotional experience. Popular health and well-being. Well, every week we have a handful of older adults with dementia symptoms. It is not hard dementia symptoms. It is not the tough cases. These are probably cases which in 4 to 6 years from now will develop into heavy dementia. But in the beginning, it is still relatively easy to reach these people and give them a better life quality. In Sweden, we have the system that the municipalities for these people with lighter versions of dementia or the first stages of dementia symptoms, the municipality should make some sort of a relief for or free time for their relatives. So once a week, for I think it is 3 hours, the municipality should offer an activity where staff is taking care of these people, and their relatives, husbands or wives, most often will have time to do something for themselves. And we have created an offer which is about visiting their own life as it could have been in the 1950s, when they were young and they fell in love for the first time, etc., etc. Because we know that when people are in between, should we say, 14, 15 and 25, 27, they are very emotional. People are extremely emotional in that age. It is, of course, a natural phenomenon, and which is governed by development of hormones, etc. But that also means that what you may have experienced in that age will stay with you all your life. So even tastes and smells and sounds and colors, all that are still will still be found in you, and that is very, very interesting. We see that these people, when they visit a house from the 1950s, as it could have been in their own house with their parents, or their marriage, etc., they become very emotional and very happy and very active. We make them sing, and sometimes they even dance. And it's so funny when these older people are teaching us how to bake and how to make fire in an oven and make dishwashing, etc. It is so funny. And what we know now from the municipal staff is that these people are very, very tired when they come back, but when they leave our museum and they go home, they are laughing and smiling and even singing on the bus. And we are very happy about this project, and their families and their relatives are very happy too, because we give them a higher life quality, at least for a couple of hours, and that feels really fulfilling our task as a museum. So we use history in a very productive way, so to speak. Well, Jamtli, what are we when we do these things? Are we a museum or a hybrid, or what are we? But let's put it this way. Here we have what we call Jamtli identity. When we think hard about this, and I was the director of that museum for 18 years, so I've been thinking a lot about who we are. But I would like to put it this way. Of course, we're a museum. We have collections, huge collections, and we still collect and preserve, and we produce exhibitions, etc. We do all the good things which usually a museum will do. But not only that, we also very much about learning. We work with schools, with preschools, with upper secondary schools. We work with university students. We work with Swedish for immigrants. We have adult education, etc., etc. We have so much to do with learning, so that is preoccupying a huge amount of a huge percentage of our time. So we might say we are as much about learning as we are about a museum, and what's really the difference? But that's another issue. But we're also a social agent. We want to make lives, we use our competence to make lives better for people. So that is why we take care. We produce these programs for reminiscence for older people with dementia symptoms. This is why we run a preschool, and we think it is xenophobia is a terrible thing. So we think it is very important we try to influence younger people to the experience of how it is to be a refugee, that it is not easy at all. So we're a social agent in many ways. And finally, well, in order to, we in our region, we are very devoted to tourism. So we are proud of attracting lots of people as tourists to our museum. And in everyday work, we can say that the job of the staff in such a museum is that getting these four corners together. So I would say that getting these four corners together is what creates the Jamtli identity. That is what it is like to work in such a place. And I think that you could take many museums throughout Europe and say the same. It may be different in different corners. It could be some museums will have more with research. Some museum would have more with, should we say, technology, etc. So there can be different corners, but being a museum is more or less just a part of it today, but nonetheless quite important as it is a mode of production. Well, Jamtli has during 30 years developed special activities and opportunities, which has been developed and tested together with target group members, researchers and policymakers. And you've just been introduced to a handful of them. From the museum, there are three perspectives which governs our way forward in this work. First of all, is the method or program efficient or popular? Well, if it is not efficient, why should we do it? It has to be efficient. We have to reach people with that. And if people don't want it, we should not produce it. It has to be popular too. So it's tricky to find or to create new programs, pedagogical methods, etc. Because this is the first question we have: is it efficient? What do we want to do with it? And do those people really want it? Do they want it? Secondly, the second thing we talk about is the method or program unique? Well, if it is not unique, then we have a weaker position in the market. Then somebody else could do it. If we make a program, for example, which everybody else could do, well, then we will be in a hard competition on the market. And that's nothing wrong with competition, but it's better for us to produce something which is unique, which create monopoly, and where we could get our costs covered. So we have to use our special competences in the Jamtli Museum. And thirdly, and that of course is a crossover. Is it value for money for the buyer and for the museum? It is important that it's a cost-benefit analysis which is behind this. So if we make a program, it has to run for some years, and we have to make it in a way so it is so we're making a small profit on it, a profit which can be invested in producing new programs for the future. So it is important that these three questions are answered in a positive way before we at all consider making a program. And that is what we have done with the programs I just explained to you. The museum is, for example, running a preschool based on cultural history. So every day the parents will be coming to our preschool, and it is a farm in 1895, And the life in this farm is so easy, so that the parents feel very competent and amused. Only we can do that. Which is funny about this preschool is that it especially attracts the young fathers, which is good for this is a policy aim in Sweden, that as many young fathers as possible should also take responsibility for their young children. We are producing and offering special pedagogical programs for school and upper secondary school based on art and cultural history, but they are always designed for children with special preconditions. This will mean that when the children are coming to the school and experiencing our programs, we almost always every day have the same comments from the teachers. The teachers say that it is so interesting for them to see that the boys or the girls who are very quiet in the classroom, they become very lively and active and competent in the Continental Museum. That is good. Secondly, we can see that the young children are learning something extra besides the schoolwork when they come to our schools. So they are learning through all their senses when they are with us. We are running a 3-month program for dropouts that are young people aged 16, 17, 18, and 19 who have dropped out from upper secondary school. And the idea is for us to help them re-entering education. And we have actually a success there. More than 40% as an average is actually re-entering education. We are also arranging training work programs for former offenders from just out of prison. We are arranging training and practice for apprentices in crafts and other things, not least building constructions, but also apprentices in IT and in information technology and in multimedia. We are arranging training and practice for unemployed people, especially people who have been a long time away from the labor market and who should have sort of connection to a workplace in order to get back into work. And we are arranging job training and shaping jobs for people with special needs. So we have people who have psychological or physical issues where we create special jobs for these people. We also have special training programs for young immigrants, including asylum seekers, and we are arranging the reminiscence program for people with early dementia symptoms and for their relatives. And we are arranging a huge variety of activities for volunteers. We are proud at Jamtli that we are combining leadership, business, and social cohesion. We are very proud of that. And it feels good to also to tell you about it. But yes, there's much more to be done. And it takes time to develop these programs. And of course, as you saw before, we have to answer the 3 fundamental questions. Is it unique? Is it efficient? And is it value for money? The European Museum Academy is now working on how we can contribute to make our more museums aware of the challenge of further access. Because we see that many museums are still too, should we say, closed to the wider public. It becomes too boring, it becomes too specialized, etc. And we think there's many things which could be done. And even Jamtli can become much better. So That is why we have decided to explore the possibility to create the European Museum Academy UNESCO for All Award, which should be a European or an international award for museums who are making extraordinary efforts to broaden the access to the museum. That could be for impaired or blind people, deaf people, etc. And it could be in all aspects of access, because access means so many different things, also from the perspective of UNESCO. Everybody should have access to our common and shared cultural past and heritage. It is a work in progress, and it will probably take some time, but we'll get there. Maybe not this year, or probably not this year, and probably not next year, but well, that will be a 2021 too. Let's see. We're working on it. Thank you very much.